Over, baby, yeah. There's a term in the wrestling fandom called being over. And when something or someone is over, it means the fans love it. It means whatever it is that they're doing or that's happening for them means the fans can't get enough of it. And they're doing the right thing. And that's why this series is called Over and Under. It covers my expectations, reception, and opinions on certain things happening in and around MPL Philippines Season 13. In our very first Over and Under, we're talking about pre-season expectations. I'm going to be taking a look at the 8 franchise teams, and I'll be talking about whether or not I think they're over, under the radar, or totally unknown. I have no idea how to read their rosters. Let's begin. Starting with the teams that I think are over. Number 1, AP Bren. No question. It's been a while since we've seen a team as dominant and as convincingly on top of their game as AP Bren. If there was ever a time for them to actually stumble, it would have been in Kazan. It would have been at Games of the Future 2024, but they didn't. They remained as dominant, and even amongst the slew of different factors that could have caused them to slip up, they didn't. So they got their eyes on the prize, and if the sources are true that they're just hungrier than ever, despite a change in their coaching staff, they maintained the same 6-man roster with a first 5, and as solid a backing from one of the most dedicated organizations our esports has seen, then most definitely AP Bren should remain over. Ekko is also pretty over, given that they also maintained a majority of their roster. And it's not like they totally slipped up in the past season. Yes, they missed out on the big one. They missed out on M5, missed out on GOF. But, mind you, a lot of sources outside would say still, Ekko is a force to be reckoned with. They are a legit threat. All 5 members of that starting 5, plus a solid, very deep roster. They got a sub now for their gold, their XP, and their jungle. Those homies do be MDL champions, so you got champions back and front and up for Ekko. One thing to note though, I think a lot of matchups in Season 13 will be handicap matches when you're talking about coaching staff. Because, again, on paper, Tic-Tac is alone. I mean, it's not impossible that he'll be trading notes and getting assistance from the larger franchise, but best believe when they go out onto the stage, it's just Tic-Tac. I mean, yes, man's got stripes on stripes on stripes, got all the stars, all the accolades that you need, all the experience, the years you spent in Philippine sports, but you're just one dude. Will definitely be a cool thing to watch out for, to see how that works out, being a one-man coaching staff for Ekko. But still, that doesn't change the fact that I believe Ekko is still over. I got one more team in the over list for the preseason expectations, and it's RSGPH. Say what you will about their social media presence and how they've gone and revealed their roster for Season 13. I have thoughts, but I believe this roster should be solid. Coach Bon has already in a previous vlog talked about how they're very strong and how maybe the change in the gold lane and the jungle may change the dynamics, but I'm going to side onto this is a very strong roster. I think that with the solid Nats, Light, Aqua / Artesia, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Aqua more often than not, and then Demon Kite and Kusei, it should be as solid a roster as we all think. What you see is what you get. Put 2 and 2 together, you make 4, and that's going to be more than anyone ever asked for. This is a lineup that has won MPLI, a lineup that has won MSC, a lineup that has won MPL Philippines a few years back. So I think it's right to be over about this. I'm over for RSG. They're getting me over. I'm a Raider at this point. It's those three teams that I think are over. If you're enjoying the kind of content I'm putting out, whether it be the past few videos that we've been making, the longer form ones, or these kinds of videos that are coming at a faster clip, go ahead and give me a subscribe. Follow me at PH, and let's continue with the video. Let's talk about under the radar. I think, safe to say, a lot of the fan base will be looking at these rosters and these teams and saying, I don't expect much from them. But I, on the other hand, I'm going to say otherwise. I think you're making a mistake by saying that these teams are not going to perform. These are my under the radars for preseason 13. First up, number one, I think Minana Evos do be cooking. I think they got that broth stew, and I think they got some noodles on noodles. Lucky me. I think Minana Evos is going to do great things in season 13. Now, whether or not that'll get them out of their no playoffs rut for season after season now, can't say for sure. We're 7 weeks too soon. But I do think they have a formula working, and that this time they're playing for keeps. Why? Number one, they failed way too often. Again, you could say the same about another team I'll be talking about in Under the Radar, but I think the fact that they maintained a good solid number of members from their past season and then are now going to build around those strengths will lead towards a better campaign. All right? The fact that you have Miles, the fact that you have Doming, the fact that you have Kaizen, and I'm hoping that they're in the starting five as we understand these rosters and their dynamics going into this 7-week campaign. I think that should do them good. Minana Evos is under the radar currently, and I'm going to side on caution and say, you know what? We should expect for them to surprise us. Under the radar as well for me is another team that hasn't really shown us anything competitive-wise, and that's TNC. Towards the twilight of season 12, yes, they did go for kind of like a glory run. They did spoil the well for a lot of teams trying to make it through and made it very difficult for Minana Evos. Again, team that we just talked about here, also under the radar. But for TNC, I think what makes them go under the radar this time is the fact that they're doing anything and everything necessary to get a change in. They are the complete opposite of insanity, wherein you try the same thing and expect a different result. No, they tried all the different results, right? They changed their coaching staff. They got more rookies. They trusted certain rookies with major roles to play in starting fives. They have cut down on their roster and kept it to a bare minimum. They can barely trade around through MDL if the need do so arise throughout season 13. So with that said, I think TNC is going all in. Hell, they even called back an import to come play for us once again. And I think that's going to pay off. I really do look forward to how Hatred is going to perform for TNC. Whether or not he sees play in the starting five or not, it's just a matter of time, I think. So with that said, again, TNC under the radar. This is by no means affected by their roster reveal trailer, which, again, has nothing to do with anything. If they just said, this is our roster, pow, I would have had the same thoughts, very much under the radar. Last but not least, I was 50-50 on this prior to recording, and I would have said OMG was not under the radar nor over. They would have gone into that third category, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I'd like to think the fact that they have a 10-man roster and they are stacked in almost all roles. Again, some of these players I have not seen play before, nor do I know what they might bring to the roster that they're potentially playing with. I'd like to think that Omega are fast enough to rotate that roster and find out what works. They also have a stacked coaching staff, mind you. If it was any less than Snap, Lembot, and Stronger, I would have worried looking at this 10-man roster. But since it's this trio of very intelligent and dynamic gentlemen, I'd like to think they have this figured out. So I'll put them onto very slightly under the radar instead of this last category, which almost, again, the new barangay joined, and that's the, I don't know, fam, I honestly don't know category. First up, not affected at all by what I'm wearing. I just decided to put a little bit of color for today. MPL PH goes into the, I don't know fam, I really don't know category. Given that, yes, on paper, and again, the fanboy in me has been triggered, they created a roster that looks so good. They created a roster that has so much potential, so much star power, so much almost immediate action. Like you can almost just, by naming these players, right, you can almost see them on the map, but I'd like to think it's not as simple. It's not as easy to say that you put Kelra, King Kong, Escalera, Super Friends, and Gem in the same team. And that's that. Like these 5 players, it won't necessarily equal to what we all want it to be. And again, I'm not saying it's going to be a bad thing. I'm not saying they are immediately going to fail or they're going to struggle. It's just, I can't paint it just yet. So that's what makes Coach Wynot and his team's work all the more cut out for them. So that's what puts MPL PH here in the, I don't know, category. Joining them here is another team that is very polarizing. Talking about Blacks International in season 13, they literally just changed one player. It's one player out of their starting 5. You take out the hitman, it's the same 4 dudes around that role. Why did the dynamic change? Why did the vibe change? Why did the aura of Blacklist change? I can't say for sure. Now I'm not even wearing my Hitman fanboy hat. I'm telling you this as logically and as intelligently as possible. It shouldn't be so bad. It shouldn't have changed too much. But again, we saw GOF that it's possible they can get shocked into submission. The aggression that a team like Fireflux Esports had around the Lord take, showing us another kind of dance. It's a Turkish dance, man. After the Lord dance, whoop, it's a turn. It's a hard turn. They've done that countless times all throughout GOF. And I guess it's this version of a Blacklist that they had to do it to. But again, I did say this off the record. I told several friends who, decided to talk about what happened at GOF, is I think this is a good deal for Blacks International. I think it's a wake-up call. It's a reality check so that come season 13, they'll have worked out those kinks. Regardless of who plays in the starting 5 or what kind of roster changes they have throughout these 7 weeks of competition. But right now, coming from Kazan, coming from preseason, right here, right now, I'll tell you, I don't know where they'll land. I can't say for sure that they're over. I can't say for sure that we're underestimating them. They're under the radar, but I don't know, man. I can't tell you exactly where Blacklist International is going to land come the early weeks of season 13. Hopefully you all enjoyed this new format, this new kind of content that I'm trying to cover. Again, over and under. I think you're doing great. I think you're underappreciated, and I honestly don't know what's going on. These are the 8 teams that are going into competition this weekend. Starting this weekend, March 15th, Season 13, MPL Philippines. 4 p.m. na, MPL na, y'all know what it is, set your clocks, that's GMT +8. I will see you there. Again, like and subscribe if you're liking this kind of content, if I put a smile on your face, and do me a solid, holler at your boy, Ray Ash. He's taking care of business here, making sure that y'all get the content that your boy's churning out. Y'all have a great week ahead. I'll see y'all.